You hear the dink? All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the pixeLobby podcast. I'm your host, Brian Mundy, and I want to thank you so much for listening, tuning in, and subscribing to our show. And with us today is our founder of the pixeLobby. We have Cindy Wilkerson. Cindy, hello.
Hey, everybody.
Cindy, do you realize this is our 20th episode?
You know, I actually did know that. But I knew it from earlier today. I was looking at it, and
So
I'm excited.
I'd imagine that's a milestone of some sort. Yeah, we've been doing this
Yes.
now. I don't recall, do you, what month we started? I know we've had a couple of odd weeks there, but
You know, Sebastian, we interviewed him in August, so it's before then. I think he was what, number 7 or something like that.
sure.
So a
So
while.
we're gonna have to plan like a big 1 year anniversary party, kind of online kind of thing.
Sounds
Maybe,
good to me.
maybe we'll try to invite everybody who's ever been on the Pixel Lobby podcast, and we'll have a good time.
Yes.
All right. Well, today we have a very special guest. I'm going to let Cindy introduce him.
All right. I'm personally really excited and honored that he said yes to be on the show. We have Kevin Cook, who is an amazing photographer and digital artist too, in his own right, and my friend Kevin Cook.
Hey,
Welcome, Kevin.
thanks for having me tonight.
We are super, super happy to have you. So, yes. What we're going to do is we're going to just start right out and have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into photography, the beginnings.
So, I am in North Carolina. We operate in North and South Carolina, in the Myrtle Beach area and down through the Fort Bragg area. I'm sure a lot of people know about Fort Bragg. So we kind of have about a 100-mile radius that we work in, and we have, we've ran a full-blown studio, which a lot of people don't really know about me. They think that I just do, these whimsical kid shots, and that's all I do all the time. It's not. It's just a small part of what I do. We actually normally run about 500 sessions a year for our crew, and that includes about 30 weddings normally, which we're kind of tailoring back on a lot of that stuff now just because of everything else that's going on. And another thing a lot of people don't know is they think that Kevin Cook is who they get to talk to and deal with about all these things, and that is not true. So sometimes you'll get someone who's nice, and it's not me. It's probably someone else that you're actually talking to. So basically, I got started about 7 years ago. I had no idea. I was working in IT. I was ITS manager for a pretty big company, and had no care about photography whatsoever. Like I never really got into taking pictures. I never knew about, some of the cool stuff that we could do. But I started working with Photoshop when I was 16, so almost 20 years now. And I kind of got like, before I even took the first picture, I was, messing with composites and creating different things and stuff like that for friends that didn't know how to do anything, swapping faces, that kind of stuff. So I'd never touched a camera really, a professional camera, and I had a lot of experience with Photoshop. And then, of course, like I said, I was doing IT work. So I did a lot of web design also, which is connected with Photoshop, or at least it used to be. Now, not so much. But so I was kind of always interested in Photoshop. I never had any training or anything like that. It was just 16-year-old, and someone gave me a version of it that they had a long time ago. They didn't use. I think it was actually Photoshop 2 maybe.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was before the CSs. It was like pixels and really nothing else. There was no actions. There was no. I mean, you couldn't really do it. It was kind of like paint, but you could still mask, which was kind of what Photoshop became. So anyway, so basically, I just actually accidentally found a passion for photography. A friend of mine owned a camera. We went to the beach for a weekend, and he asked me to take some pictures. Looking back on it now, I kind of laugh because what we thought was great was really terrible. But um, so I took some pictures of him and some other stuff, and I didn't think any more about it. He took the camera home, he posted them on Facebook, and people started asking like, "When did you take these pictures? These are really cool, whatever." And I had, it was just angles really, just trying to get perspective differently from what he was doing, because we are kind of shooting the same type of stuff. But so after that weekend, me and at the time my girlfriend Krista was decided that we were gonna go buy a DSLR camera just to have and play around with. And I started off just we would go out on the weekends. I would take pictures of just her, and I did that 2 or 3 times. And then my next door neighbor who lived in the house beside of me said, "Hey, would you mind taking pictures of my son? He's really hard to take pictures of, and so it would be a waste of money for us to go somewhere. Do you mind doing it?" I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." So I took a picture of, or I took some pictures of her son, and then she put them on Facebook, and then it just kind of escalated from there. People started calling me and asking me if I did it, and I had no idea what to charge. I didn't really have a lot of equipment. I didn't have a lot of time, but I really kind of had a lot of passion, even though it was kind of fresh and new, which is awesome for anyone who's just starting out. Just keep pushing, you'll get there. It takes time, but with effort and practice, you will get to where you want to go. So that's kind of how I started, and then it just I started getting contacted by different companies and people and stuff like that, and then it just kept growing until 5 years ago. So I did it for 2 years basically. I was working. It got to the point where I was working a 40-hour work week doing IT, and then 40 or 50, 60-hour work week doing photography.
Mm.
And I did that for about 9 or 10 months. I mean, literally just working myself to death from 8 o'clock in the morning until 1 or 2 o'clock every single night. I mean, just crazy. That's the way a photographer's life is. And when you have 2 full-time jobs. So 5 years ago, I walked into my house in the middle of the summer. It was really busy time for me and Krista, and I said, "I think I'm going to quit my job and do this full time." And she was really supportive. She was like, "If you think this will work, then let's do it." And I haven't been back since. It's 5 years ago in July, so almost 5 years ago. So we've been doing this really.
Having a supportive partner makes all the difference too. Don't you agree?
I do, and my wife was actually in nursing school, so she was
Wow.
actually still in college. She was in her last semester, or getting ready to start her last semester, and we made this decision. I'm paying for her to go to school because we got married, and trying to switch over. But if I could give anybody any advice that makes sense to them, I would say you're going to have to make sacrifices in the beginning just so you can get a read on your development, your market, the people around you, how you can take it further, which is exactly what I did. And I've seen a lot of people in my area that's come and gone, and they failed because they would try to grow too fast, or they would quit their jobs, or a friend of mine, he actually tried to get into doing photography full time. He was a teacher, and he quit at the end of the summer one year, and I think he's actually teaching again now. But so the business is tough, and I always tell everybody you either have to be really good at what you do or really really cheap, and that's how you stay successful. I mean, honestly.
You're not kidding.
You know, Cindy, we seem to have a reoccurring theme here with all of the guests that we've had on the podcast. They're all wonderful, creative people, very talented, doing amazing work. But I don't know, for someone who's been doing it for over 35 years, it's a little depressing when people said, "Oh, 5 years ago was the first time I picked up the camera and started doing all this." Kevin, and that is meant as a total compliment. Your work is absolutely amazing.
Well, my wife always kids with me because she thinks that I have OCD, and everything that I touch, I have to just master it. And photography was no different. Everything I had. I mean, if you were really to talk to her, she would tell you nobody read. She literally would come up to me sometime at 1 o'clock in the morning while I was watching videos on photography or on Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever, or reading book after, and say, I don't understand why you still keep doing this. You're really, really good at this. Why don't you just, and it just wasn't ever enough. Like I just kept pushing and pushing, and I still do it. It would shock people today to see how much, even now, how much I read and stuff like that, trying to get better. But
surprisingly enough, it doesn't it doesn't shock me because, and maybe because I've watched you and am a part of your group and watch what's going on in your Facebook group and everything, and I always see you pushing the boundaries and doing a little bit more and adding a little bit more. So you seem like a very progressive person that just is always working forward to something even better and new. And does that make sense? But that's
actually,
how I see you. So it really makes sense what she's saying.
well,
What,
and I told you in the beginning that we were running about 500 sessions KCC photography and a lot of weddings and a lot of other stuff too. But I have a 2-year-old son. Well, he's almost 2, and his first 6 months kind of like was so quick. Like I got up one morning and I remember just looking at him and I'm like, he's crawling, and I don't even know how he got to this point. Like it was such a blur the first 6 months. And you know my story, Cindy. We were told we would never have a child, and all I could think about was I'm given a miracle, and I'm letting this miracle just pass by and not taking advantage of it. So that kind of like changed my perspective a little bit. Not that I quit trying, but I started learning how to prioritize and make sure that my family is obviously first. But I work myself to death, even still. And you're spot on with your analysis of me. I really do. I try to push it as hard as well. A lot of it's because I want people to. If I could go back and do this all over again 7 years ago and start over, I would have invested more in education, and I would have clinged to someone. I had nobody. If you search the internet, you can find other podcasts. I won't get into the long spiel, but when I first got into doing this, I was told that I would never be good at it, that I should just quit while I was ahead, quit spending my money on it. This is from a art director from a major university who was over a magazine that I was shooting for, and she basically just cut into me and said, "You should quit, never do this again. You don't have enough talent. You'll never mount to anything in photography." And so if I could go back and start over, I would have found someone to cling to, even if they weren't what I wanted to be, but just because there's so many. If you guys have been in photography more than 6 months, you go through waves in photography where you think you've got it figured out, and then you start all over and you burst your bubble and you have to go back from the beginning and you try to figure it out, and you just keep banging your head up against the wall,
you
and we
know,
still do it.
it's really interesting because in the photography world, there's a saying that it's cutthroat, and that's not a joke at all. The story you just told us right there is not. something new. I think anyone who, and the advice given to many that are just starting out now too is, it's often pretty negative from what I've heard. And, even myself, I've been told really, really, really negative things. And I think you have to be a fighter, and you have to be someone who is willing to keep trying and whatever. But I think part of the reason we started pixeLobby and why I bring certain individuals on the show is so that people can see that there are some really good people that work hard. It's not easy. It's you have to keep going. You have to keep working and reinventing yourself, if you will. You have to uh, be able to look past what other people say and see something in your own self and your own work and have your own reason for it. Don't you think?
Absolutely, and that I just did an interview for Clickin' Moms, and they asked me about if I could give advice to someone who was just starting out. And one of the very first things that I always tell when I do these interviews is you have to learn how to take constructive criticism and put it in its right perspective, because first of all, this is very subjective, which is art. That's what art is. Everyone sees it differently. It's not cookie cutter. What you think and what I think are completely different. And it's never more prevalent than it is in art. So whenever someone sees your work and they criticize your work, you should take it as 2 points. One, there's a technical aspect of photography, and then there's an artistic aspect of photography, and they're completely different. They're not the same thing. So when you start to get these criticisms and stuff like that, it's a good thing because it helps you grow. But if you don't learn how to put them into perspective, if you don't know how to take that and say, technically this part is true, but artistically it's not, or vice versa. If you've been doing photography 35 years, you know exactly what I'm saying is true. There's a technical side of it that's absolute and that doesn't change. But then there's an artistic side it is subjective. It is based on what your perception is. And there's some things in photography that are absolute, and they don't change from one camera to another. And in those things, that's where we can draw good criticism from, because that's what we need to learn from. But you can't learn from someone's artistic eye. It's impossible.
I also want to add to the critiques. I was in college learning photography, and it was brutal. I mean, you would have instructors, you'd come into class with your assignment, your work would be all matted, mounted, and sitting up on the ledge of the chalkboard. And, instructors would walk down and they'd just take a quick look, and if you didn't cut the mustard, they would just chip your image over to where it fell on the floor. And if he got really brutal about it, I've literally seen, I haven't had it done to me, but where they tore mat and all apart and just threw it flinging through the air. So you learn to get a little bit of a touch going through that. But today in the internet and stuff like that, you need to distinguish constructive criticism or critiques of your work versus people that tend to be wanting to build up their own ego. There seems to be a lot of that nowadays, unfortunately, through social media and stuff, where people are posting and they're looking like, wow, what do you think of this work I did? And there's such
Kevin
meanness
doesn't know
out there.
anything about that.
There's such meanness out there. But I want to get back on track to. Go
Can
ahead.
I say one thing really quick? Sorry, one thing I noticed about Kevin, and is that Kevin has a really good spirit about him, a real good persona. He's a good individual. I mean, Kevin, you're a sweet husband. You are a sweet father. You can tell there's a lot of love. But I think a lot of the people out there do not get to see that there's two sides to Kevin. There's the businessman, like he was talking just a little bit ago, there's a business side, and sometimes you do get to talk to the people working his office and whatever, and some are nice, and then sometimes he's short, but he's working all the time, or a lot of people are hard on him and stuff, and he'll say it how it is. He'll just say, but you know when you're talking to Kevin the person, Kevin is a really neat person and good person. I like that about you, Kevin.
Can I interject something real quick? Because it's
Yeah.
Absolutely.
very, very true. I have, a lot of friends that are, I think, I mean, phenomenal photographers, very, very, very good photographers. And it's so amazing to watch the difference between who they have to be online and who they really are. Just because you really do get beat up online. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's 2016. People do it. So you do develop thick skin, but it's never really bothered me. I had my faith in my family, and that's what's most important to me. And if I can help anybody, Cindy, I try to do it. And sometimes that even to a fault where I try to help people. And in today's world, you can be beat up for being too nice. You can be beat up for being too mean. So I try to keep it as even keel as I can, um, and I definitely want to help people. I definitely do. I
Well,
mean,
and people need to realize. Now, why don't you tell us how many followers do you have right now? You have 100,000, somewhere around there.
I think it's close to that. Yep.
Yeah, so you get 100,000 people, and he's got a group that's 6,000 and growing fast. I mean, we're adding people all the time in that group, and you get all those questions. It gets overwhelming, and you can't answer every individual. And when everybody's saying Kevin, 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 you
But I mean, we try to do it. It's I think a lot of time people don't think about it as a business, but it really for us it is a business. Like I told you, it's if you came here, you would see that we run a full operation. It's not it's not like working out of my mom's basement, and I don't have no problem with that. What I'm just saying, what I mean by that is, it's a full business for us. It's not. We don't get to just take photos once in a while and that kind of stuff. Like I've cut back a lot on what I do personally, just because I told you my son is very, very important to me, and I watched the first 6 months blur by, and I made a conscious decision that was not gonna. I didn't want. I would rather be dumb and poor than to watch my son, or not get to watch my son grow up and then look back and regret. So for
So,
me, it was important to put that first.
so Kevin, your Facebook page, as Cindy just pointed out, almost 100,000 followers. Do you do you find that Facebook page and doing that with those many followers and questions helps your business, or is it more about giving back to the community, or is it more about establishing you as an expert in the field?
Honestly, Facebook used to be a great marketing vehicle, and I'm sure if you talk to 100 photographers, most of them will tell you this. Um, there's no secret to Facebook anymore. They want your money. It's a business, and I'll be honest with you. I've always had success spending money on Facebook just because it's such a tight knit community. I look at Facebook as a way to connect with people, and if you're on my Facebook page, you know that I have given a lot back. We do a lot of free stuff. We do a lot of free tutorials. I give people advice. In fact, today I answered a girl's questions on Photoshop. She's been using PSE, and she didn't even know that she could get Photoshop CC, and was going to buy actions for Photoshop Elements. And I said, why don't you just get CC? And she's asking me all these questions, and I sat there and literally talked to her about it. And before I knew it, you know, it became a full conversation, and it's so hard because I wish I could help everyone do that, but there's just not enough time in the day, especially
Mm-hmm.
with with my family and running the business and stuff like that. So it's very, very important to try to stay connected as much as I can, and I do that. But um, most of the time, if you see me absent, then it's because I'm working on something that's getting ready to come out, and I'm really I can honestly, this is amazing, but I can tell you sometime these things just happen sitting at Starbucks drinking a cup of coffee, and it's just like, oh, I've got this thing that I can do, and I run home and I do it, and it takes an hour, and then for 2.5 months you can't come up with anything. So
Yep.
it's really, really weird. I think it was the day after Christmas or something like that. I was just sitting here and I was kind of down and about where I was because I hadn't created anything new in a while, and then just sitting here, just like all these things came to my head, and I just started putting them down. And when I create stuff, it's very important to know for the people that are listening. I would never, ever, and I say this a lot, but I don't give anybody anything that I don't personally use or that we don't personally use. There's nothing that I make that we don't personally use. And so there's some people that make actions and overlays and textures and all kind of stuff. There's a lot of people that do it, but there's some that do it and they actually don't even use it. I know some of these people personally. They don't use their own actions. So it to me, when I had a lot of people ask me for probably 2 years, when are you gonna release them, because we were trying to get the same look or whatever, and I kept putting it off. And I was like determined, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna, because I was teaching a lot of webinar one-on-one Photoshop training for
Mm-hmm.
a very long time, and I was doing one or two a day every day, 1 to 4 hour training sessions. So it was really tough, and then the only reason I decided to release it is because of the situation with my son, and that was exactly
Mm-hmm.
about 18 months ago. And it is absolutely amazing how much it's grown. I mean, um, it has been huge, huge blessing for us.
Well, let's
And
talk about that. Go ahead,
go
Cindy. I was
ahead.
going to
Go
say,
ahead, Brian.
let's talk about it. I visited your website today. I must admit it was for the first time. But looking at, we had actions, we had overlays, we had for Lightroom, we had for Photoshop, we had, what else? Backgrounds and all kinds of stuff, as well as then your tutorials to help explain and teach people how to use those different aspects. So tell us a little bit more about that whole website and all the different pieces and elements that you are offering out there.
All right, so we actually started. Basically, this is, and this is absolutely true. So whenever I release these are actions that I was privately using that I made, that I would, because anybody who's been doing this any amount of time knows that it's very, very hard to be consistent. You're all over the map when you first start off. And every single person will tell you they go through and they buy 50 different sets from 50 different artists that release actions, and then they go through them and they use them for about a week and then they quit using them. So I did the same thing when I first started. For the first year and a half, I probably spent $5,000, it seems like, in Photoshop actions, Lightroom presets, and all this stuff. Not exactly 5,000, but I spent a lot of money on it, and I could never get what I was looking for. So then I just went back to the drawing board and started creating what I thought looked amazing for myself. And as I started recording these things in different scenarios, I would find a look that I loved, and then I would record it just so I could keep that for the next time. Well, because lighting condition changes, and all these other factors that come into photography, it was always so hard to make one or two actions like you see in most of these sets. You push one button and everything comes together. That's not what ours is. Ours are Ours are based on workflow. They're based on making your job faster, easy, more efficient, and to give you any type of result that you could possibly think. And it's not this isn't the salesman in me talking to you. This is me telling you, the truth. This is when I built these things. They were for me personally. I had them for a while before anybody ever seen them or touched them or used them, and I never made a decision to sell them until that situation with my son came up, where I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I was spending too much time. And so I went, maybe this is a different avenue that we can take, because I had so many people asking about it, and so we did it, and the timing was perfect because we hit several. We won several awards on 500 picks for editorial choice, and this is back before. This is back two years ago when they pick one every 2 million submissions. Now they pick one a day, I think, but they used to just pick one editorial choice for every, I think it was like 1 or 2 million people that posted, and I won two in a matter of like 2 months, and that was just like huge because I went from like 500 followers on 500 picks to like 15,000 in just a matter of a couple weeks, and that was about the same exact time when I started releasing these things, these actions. And so basically the point is, all the stuff that we sell, I use. If you want to see what they do, if you want to see what they look like, if you want to see, and that's why I made all these tutorials. They're there so people can go, oh, that's how he got the look that he got for this photo. You can watch it happen. You can see where it starts, and then kind of move forward from there. And there's so many. And if you look at it under the tutorial part of our website, you'll see there's like a ton of videos, and I try to do it like from one end of the spectrum to the other, so you can see these actions are not just going to achieve one look. They're going to achieve 40 or 50 different looks, and then you can just look through my pictures and see I'm using the same exact thing, and you can see how I'm using it, so you can kind of get an idea. Whenever you see a photo that I come out with, and you go, wow, that looks cool or whatever, generally we try to make a video so that you can see exactly how it was achieved. And we're going to try to do some really interesting stuff to help in other ways this summer, with some recording on set, so you can see exactly how it's shot and what time of the day it's shot and the direction that it's shot. It's going to be like free little mini workshops that you can go online and just watch and kind of get an idea.
You know what's really interesting too for everybody listening is he has a Facebook group, and in that group, and one of the fun things about that particular group that Kevin does is he doesn't just introduce his new products and his new, backgrounds and such. He also says, hey, if you want me to edit a picture of yours, put it up. I'll choose a few people out of, that post your own picture, and I'll show you how this looks on your picture, which is really something that I thought was unique to you, Kevin. But you're very interactive with the people that you're helping. I mean, you're always helping people, which I think is really great. Do you want to tell them what the name of your Facebook group is, and a little bit more about that, and how people can join and become part of this learning from you group?
Yeah, and there's a lot of talented people in the group. The group is just called KCC Shoot, Learn, and Inspire. It's named that because that's what we try to do. Because how fast the group grew, we had to put some restrictions on a lot of things that we used to allow, but and you know that it's so hard because when you got 6,500 people and everybody's excited and they want to post everything that they do, then a lot of stuff gets lost, and but so it's KCC Shoot, Learn, and Inspire, and we do what she just said. We will take some of your photos and actually retouch them and then show you exactly what we did, with screenshots and stuff.
I just joined.
All right. So, and
And you know,
the reason that we do it is because a lot of time people, and I get this, we get emails all the time, people asking. I know that that these actions work on your photos and they look great, but what's it going to look like on mine? And so we started doing this to kind of show people that it doesn't really matter if it's mine or yours, or the styles don't matter. There's something in it for everyone. I promise you. If you just, there's a couple free ones that you can try, and they're a little bit more simple because everybody, they've been downloaded, I don't know, 100,000 times or something. So it's really cool just to get to watch some of these people grow. Like when we first started this group almost a year ago, um, I've seen such progress in some of these people's work. It's absolutely amazing. And I know they're getting influence from a lot of different places, but the one thing that I don't do in the group very often is I don't like to tear people down. I don't like to criticize people's photos just because I want them to know that whenever you're doing this, it's really just about being. Now, if they come in and they ask for help, I can't figure out these colors or something like that, then I help them. But I don't like to rip people's photos up just because I've been there and I know it really doesn't do much. You can tell people, hey, this would be better if you did this, and then what happens? One of the coolest parts for me is I used to be in a lot of those groups, probably like 50 of them, and and I was in some that are really, really hardcore. One of them, they like really, I don't care. You can put, I think it's the most perfect photo you've ever done in your entire life, and you submit it, and then 5 people find a pixel that's out of place. So it really helped me, like, to train my eye into looking for things that in objects that shouldn't be in the photo, and it really helped me a lot. But that's what this group is about, is so that people can learn not just about the actions, but also about business, things that are good practice for photographers to have and do, and how to run a business successfully. We try to answer as many questions as we can, and lots of other people in there are very helpful. So.
that's awesome. And now, is your little boy getting used to being behind the camera as he's getting older?
He actually he actually does not like having his picture taken. I know that's hard, but we kind of a lot of times y'all don't see it, but there's goldfish in the shot, or iPhones, or all kind of stuff that gets photoshopped out of his photos just because he's almost 2 years old, so he's very, very short attention span. So he was he was a lot easier a year ago to photograph.
Yeah.
But I think he's. I actually prayed before he was born and asked God to give me a very photogenic kid because I'm a photographer. I feel like he did. So.
He sure did. You guys are blessed. And I saw you were doing some pictures of your wife too. You've been shooting her some a little bit here and there, right?
Yep, and actually, we have we have new digital backgrounds that are coming out for spring. I've actually just posted a couple in that group so you can see what they look like, a couple previews. And we're actually doing some traveling for this because we want to make sure that you guys get some absolutely perfect digital backgrounds. And we're going to shoot them a little bit different this time than what we've done. We want to try to mix it up to where we have a couple of them that are a lot easier for people to learn on, and then some that are kind of just what we do. Just because it's a little bit easier to learn whenever you're not having a small plane to work in. So we're gonna add a couple of those in, but they're still gonna be beautiful photos. And we're actually gonna take a week away, and we're gonna drive up and down the East Coast. There's some absolutely beautiful.
Kevin, West Coast, West Coast.
That's just too far to drive, and this trip is all about, like, hitting the mountains and valleys, and there's so many beautiful. I mean, you've seen some of them already. Some of the digital backgrounds are absolutely
Oh, for
gorgeous.
sure.
So I
For sure.
I really really want to want to get out there and do something really because I love the West Coast, but.
Well, one of these days, and in fact, I actually might be headed out your way if things work the way I'd like them to work. Sometime around June, July-ish, and August, somewhere around those dates. So I'll have to buzz you if I'm in your area.
Yeah, please do.
Cindy's waiting for it to get humid enough.
Sure. Just know about North Carolina. It feels like a hair dryer blowing on you all the time.
Yeah. Now, I noticed a lot, and obviously, I think it's a really good rule of thumb when photographing portraits, always err on the warm side. And I notice most of your work has very golden hour, very warm. Do you have offerings of your actions and stuff that lean in towards the cool side?
I do actually, and it is a preference thing. A lot of my stuff has a lot of stuff is built into it to go either way. I do lean more to the warm side of photos just because it's more cozy. And when I first got into photography, I followed a girl named Candy, who was amazing photographer. She still is actually, but she always edited very, very warm like that. But she had just the perfect tone where it wasn't orange or too yellow, but it just hit the mark just perfectly. So that was kind of like my calling. I always love, and it's kind of like a Chevy and Ford thing, Some people like warm photos, some people like cooler photos. These actions can do either one. There's stuff built into both, and a lot of the actions actually has a warm and hot button that you can turn on. So that if you want to go warm, you can go warm. If you want to go cooler, you can go cooler. There are some examples, but I just personally don't do a whole lot of cooler stuff. But you will find some just because.
So for all those people that like to know the details, what do you shoot, Canon or Nikon?
I shoot Canon, but I actually started on Nikon. And it's so weird because people ask me why I switched, and I honestly do not even know why I switched. It was just like I bought like a $500 Canon DSLR. I don't even remember what it was called. Maybe it was $600 or something. And it comes with the 18 to 55 kit lens, and then I think I bought like a I don't know, 50 to 200 or something to go with it. And I used that for a couple months, and then I was like, this stinks. I need to get something better. And so I went out, and Canon was on. They had Canon 6Ds on sale or something, I think, and so I bought one. And what's amazing is I bought a brand new camera. Never used a Canon before in my life. On the way, I stopped at Best Buy and bought this camera on the way to do a photo shoot for a couple for their engagement session. And let me tell you, it was a night. I probably took like 400 pictures, and like 10 of them were any good because I didn't know my way around the camera. So like I couldn't figure out how to change anything, so I was just snapping away. And
that's a message to all of you out there.
Well, Canon cameras are notorious even within their models of moving menus around and moving the buttons around.
Well, and Nikon does the same thing. Well, you still have to get used to it, but we don't recommend you go the night before going to shoot your client.
No, this was actually on the same day. We stopped at Best Buy at like 4 o'clock. I bought it, unpackaged it, charged it, and then took it to my shoot at like 7.
I'm sorry.
Like I was literally reading the manual driving over there. trying to figure out how to like change f-stops and stuff, but I never.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's
It's
funny.
funny because people ask me, they're like, "Well, why'd you switch for it?" I don't even know the answer. It was cheaper, I guess. I don't know, but I really didn't have a lot invested at the time. Now it would be like a huge thing for me to switch back to Nikon, but. And I really, honestly, there's things about Canon I like better, and there's things about Nikon. I like
Yep.
Nikon to me has a sweeter bokeh spot in the 2 range than Canon does. I know that's very shocking for people to hear me say that, but
No.
I think Canon has a little bit more of a buttery bokeh, which I personally like, and I use that name in one of my actions just because it creates a little bit more bokeh and it has more of a buttery look to it. But
Buttery bokeh. I like that.
You know what? I love the creaminess of a Canon. The creamy, it just,
yeah, that's what I mean. It just has this
yeah.
really smooth bokeh.
And
And Nikon is more circular, and a lot of people don't see that, but
well,
Hmm.
Nikon, we tend to have, it has warmer, the images that they produce are quite warm, in my opinion, but they tend to have a lot more noise,
yeah,
I think.
Nikon is actually known more for being warmer. I think,
Yeah.
if I ain't mistaken, it's about 400 degrees to the yellow and red than Canon.
Yeah. And it can,
But
in
isn't that
some
just
ways
an
it can be
adjustment?
good. No,
It is.
it's
Well,
the
I
way.
mean, you can go into your camera and set it. If you were to
But
switch from one to the other, you could actually set it. But I
but
honestly
in the
don't even take the
shadows,
time usually to do it.
it'll pick up in the shadows
Yep.
regardless,
It is.
especially or like when you have your high ISO or whatever, you will find that you'll get your oranges and reds in there and you're just like, oh, I wanted a cool image. Oh. And so I've contemplated sometimes picking up a Canon just so I can go and have my creamy, you know. But I also love the Nikon and what it does too. I love the feel of when I work it and stuff. So
There, like I said, there's some things that I prefer Nikon over Canon,
Sure.
but it's I'm never been one of those diehard people or Pepsi or Coke, Nikon or Canon. I don't. I always go with what I think is best at the time.
yes,
You
and
know that
that's why
once,
Kevin and I get along so well. We're
yeah, you know
okay.
that once you start down a path though in photography, it gets so expensive that you can't
Does.
Oh yeah.
switch. Once you start buying gear and everything's, I mean, they don't make interchangeable lenses for Nikon and Canon, so
Right.
basically you spend a bunch of money and you're stuck. Or I actually had a friend who last year he must have got a big tax return or something. He went from all Canon to all Nikon stuff. And, like he replaced every single lens that he had.
Really?
I mean, like the 85 1.4G. He bought that one. He bought like the whatever the 200, the 70 to 200.
70 to 200. Hmm.
He bought all these like the 100. He just replaced every one of his Canon lenses with the Nikon body and Canon and Nikon lenses. I was shocked. Like this is amazing, bro. But he
Is
did
that
it, and I
that's
actually like his work. His work looks better now, to be honest with you.
some of that might be a mindset. The 70 to 200 is almost a $3,000 lens.
Yep, it
Yeah.
is. I actually have one sitting in my garage. I don't even use very much.
I love my 70 to 200.
Mine's right there.
It's fun seeing the difference in the lenses too. So like with Nikon, my 24 to 70, I hate, but everybody with Canon loves their 24 to 70, and it's just really kind of fun to see the differences between the two. I would like to see them come up with a way to interchange the lenses so that I think I would have one of each camera if they did, you know, Canon and
Like
Nikon,
I
but
have a couple of each camera.
yeah.
We have so many cameras. It's not funny. I
Yeah.
typically shoot with the same exact camera every time, but um, I mean if I could interchange lenses, I would probably have a Nikon too in my bag all the time because I really do like the way Nikons look in a lot, especially when you get into like the 85 millimeter range.
Oh
Nikon
yeah.
outshines Canon in my
Oh,
professional,
definitely. But then you have your 200 in the Canon, that 200,
and
just
as
the
far as I know, Nikon doesn't have anything that even remotely comes.
Nikon does have a 200, but it doesn't compete with yours
I don't
at
think.
all.
Well, that's what I mean. The Bokeh doesn't compete. I know that they make one, but um,
Yeah.
I don't think it has the same creaminess and tones and saturation that the Canon version does. That was the day that I bought the camera. I mean, the day that I bought that lens, I got it, and the first thing that I noticed about it was not even the bokeh; it was actually how saturated it made the colors look straight out of the camera, and that was an adjustment for me. I had to make some adjustments because of that, but.
You know, when I was doing weddings, there was a gal that I shot with, and she would be my second, I'd be her second, at different times. And one time I got her files, and she shot Canon, and I shot Nikon. And then I had to re-figure out how to edit hers because I had my own system for my so the whole workflow I had to adjust it completely just to edit her
Interesting.
Canon images. But it was quite fun.
Yeah,
It's
when you're in business for long enough, you do a lot of wedding photography, you kind of go through different people that work for you, and it's absolutely amazing how two people can be at the same place and see something completely different.
yeah.
And sometimes we run three people. We'll run three people at a wedding if they're willing to pay for it. And just it's absolutely astonishing when I look through some of these pictures and I'm like, I would have never got that, if I was standing in the same place with the same lens and the same angle and the same lighting, I would have never come up with this.
Hmm.
And
Well,
the
I have
same thing
a
happens to
question.
him too.
I have a question for you. What I'm wondering is, you shoot so many different things. What is your favorite to shoot? If you had
My
any,
favorite thing to shoot is actually senior photos, and I really don't do a whole lot of the other stuff anymore. I have other people that take care of a lot of stuff. Um, if if I had to go, you can do all of this and I'll do this, I would definitely say seniors because they're just so easy to work with. They're young, they're energetic. Um,
And they're not
normally,
afraid to be in front of the camera most of
yeah,
the time.
normally they work the camera because they're so
Yeah.
you. And now you can. It's so amazing. Like I tell these seniors that I work with all the time now. It's so funny to watch them because they do so many selfies that they literally cock their head whenever you're just trying to do portraits of them, and it's just that selfie is it's embroidered in their mind now that they have to angle their head a certain way. Exactly. So, uh, so that, but but that it's good because they also
but do you get
know
the
what they
time?
want. They want to work the camera, and they know what they're looking for. And we shoot more editorial style anyway, so it's kind of like Cosmo for teenagers.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it. And it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if you're going to give any advice to someone out there just starting, what would be your bit of advice?
Well, I'll give you a couple short, quick ones. One, we already went over the CC. Don't let it affect you permanently. It's just this shot. This shot is not perfect. We understand that. It's time to move on. That's number one. You cannot take that personally. There are heinous people that are trying to hurt you, but a lot of people are just trying to help you and help you establish your eye and those types of things. Number two, don't be scared to spend money in education, for one.
Mhm.
Reading books. There's a lot of people that know a lot more about lighting than if you shot for 100 years. There's people that know more about lighting than you do. I mean, it's just like that. There's some amazing people out there. I learned off-camera lighting 100% from a book, and the name of the book is called, I think, Off Camera Lighting the Bible or something like that, and it's a paperback book I got on Amazon for like 25 bucks, and within like a month I was shooting off camera lighting, and that completely changes your work, especially if you live in an area where you can shoot a lot of night stuff. It's really, really cool. So don't be scared to spend money on those types of things. And number 3, just be yourself. Like don't try to emulate another photographer and be like someone else. Just if you just be who you are, they'll start trying to emulate you eventually, and they'll start trying to look like your work and that kind of stuff. So you just gotta find your style. It's very important. Find your own style, and then really hammer it so that you perfect it. And basically, it's one of the biggest compliments that I get, and I hear this a lot. Is people know when they see my work, period. And it's a huge compliment for me when somebody says, hey, I knew that was your picture before I knew it was your picture, if it didn't have a logo, or if I seen it hanging up on a billboard, or I knew it was yours. And that, to me, speaks volumes about my work, because if you Google in my area, there's over 100 photographers in my area in a 50-mile radius. So when somebody drives by and they see a billboard and it's got my photo on it, and they know exactly who took it out of the 100 people that are around here. And this happens on a national and global level too. That's a huge compliment for people to know instantly whose work they're looking at. So that's the biggest advice is those 3. I think you should always find your own style and be really good at it. And one more quick one. Don't set limits on your stuff. Don't, just because it's not the fad that's going on right now, don't mean that you can't pull it off. You can create your own fads. That's the coolest part about all this, and that's what people who are successful do. They create their own fads, and they make other people want to do what they're doing. So,
Agreed.
and you can do that, but you got to first establish your own work and get your own work right. But,
Well, Kevin, can you please let everybody know what your website is, and again, go over what your Facebook group or any other groups you would like people to know at this time?
if you would like to check out our website, it's kccactions.com. That's just like Photoshop Actions, but KCC in front of it. Our main website is kccphotography.net. You can follow us on Instagram at KCC Photography, and on 500 Pics at KCC Photos, I believe. And we're on Pinterest and all that stuff too. But
Well, and everybody, if you go to pixeLobby.com, you can find Kevin as a featured artist there with
Shameless
all the
plug.
links. With all the links, yep. So you should be able to get to any of his social things by that social media links or whatever through pixeLobby.com under Kevin Cook, and it's all there as well. So thank you so much for being
Great.
on here tonight.
I'll try to get my camera going so next time.
That'll be great.
It was nice for you guys to invite me on the show, and thank you very much for letting me rant because I tend to do that in these things.
Oh, we love it.
No,
you know, it
that's
actually
great.
makes our job so much easier. So thank you, and the pleasure is ours. It was an honor to
Absolutely.
have you on here, and we'd love to have you again. If you have new actions or new product that you are getting ready to release or whatever, and you want to hop on here, just holler at me or Brian, and we will hook you up with another show for sure.
Absolutely.
Go to kccactions.com and check our group out. KCC Learn, Shoot, and Inspire. There's a couple previews of the new digital backgrounds that are coming out in spring. They're going to be absolutely amazing. I promise you that. We're actually devoting a lot of time into this set, and we feel like we're going to try to cram it into one, but it's probably going to be 2 different sets because there's so much to go through. But like you said earlier, they can join that group, and then they can actually see some of the ones that are already finished, so they can kind of get an idea of what they're waiting for. And if you go to kccactions.com, you can actually subscribe at the very bottom, and you'll get an email alert whenever something like that comes out.
Absolutely. Fantastic, Kevin. Again, I want to reiterate what Cindy said, and that...
What's her name?
What's her name? You know, what's her name? Long story, Kevin, long story. But I appreciate you coming on with us. I thoroughly enjoyed going through your website today, seeing some of the action, seeing some of the stuff, and some of the stuff on Facebook. So I encourage people to go there and check that stuff out. And, you know, with that, that should just about do it for this podcast, number 20. We've done 20 of them so far. And like I like to end it usually, remember, take a picture. It'll last longer.